benchmarking Star Citizen. Let's go. An actual benchmark this time. I'm actually excited. This is with the for all those nerds out there. Cunning Knight back, by the way, whatever. For all those nerds out there, this is a 3060 Ti, 32 gigs of memory of RAM, with that is clocked up to 3404 speed. My CPU is the 5800X, and that is roughly all you need to know. And it's run on an SSD, so I don't know, kind of just the basics. Anyways, we're gonna see how good this game runs on different settings, which I'm excited to try. This game really is probably the hardest game I've had to run ever. I just did a Cyberpunk game, benchmark, which was a little messy. I'm gonna try to do better this one. But if you are interested in another game that's extremely hard to run, go check that video out. Oh my gosh, yeah, you can see the drops. To start this off, we're gonna actually run this at 720p. If you're probably watching this on the phone at low settings, this is the lowest settings possible. There's no lower than medium setting here, but 720p. This is for anyone that's not using. This is like, you can compare and contrast with some websites to see the performance. So we're gonna do 720p. See how this runs. Wow, running. It looks kind of sucky. It's running roughly the same FPS, so that's great to know. The memory usage has gone down. I'm using currently 20 gigabytes of RAM, so at 720p. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. We're just gonna take a walk around here and see what happens. So here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna do all the settings in this crowded little area. And then we're gonna do it in space as well. We'll go back through all the settings. So this is 720p, lowest settings. If you have to play like this, you can. It's not the worst experience. Like, the game has detail. It just kind of sucks. And it runs at 50 FPS on my 3060 Ti, which is overclocked. So yeah, not good. We're just going to skip the other settings in 720p. We're just going to go all the way to the highest settings. Very high. FPS drops like maybe an average of like 4 from high to very high. You could probably run this at, I'd personally run this prefer run this better on 1080p low. Definitely way more preferred than highest settings at 720. Just my preference though. And if you're not running this with 16 gigabytes of RAM, you might as well not play this game, because you're not gonna be able to play. I'm at 720p, guys, and I'm over 20 gigs. So, just a friendly little warning. Just don't expect anything. We're getting in the 50s, and I guess in space, and when you're on your own, you'll probably get in the 60s, which is actually very nice. Beautiful for my eyes. You probably didn't notice on your phone. Unless you're on PC, then you would probably really notice. We're going to go with low settings. We're running at the same FPS as high on 720p, so that's great. Really no change in the slightest here. The RAM has gone up 300 megabytes in use, so really, if you guys really are struggling with money, maybe go for 24 gigs of RAM. And if you don't know what I mean, just like get three sticks of 8, or 1 stick of 16 and 1 stick of 8. That would work too. So we are dropping into the high 30s though now, in some scenarios. But generally, the FPS has gone down very little. Okay, the next level up, we are getting low 40s and down into the 30s. 35s, wow. Kind of sucky experience. This is not utilizing the GPU to its full potential, because we're sitting around 50% use, which is actually kind of just this is such a CPU bound game, which is kind of sad. If they really just, they don't even have to optimize the game a whole bunch, just focus on getting the CPU to use more of its threads, then the game will get, you know, just more out of it. So yeah, low 40s to mid 30s is where you're gonna sit. Sometimes in the high 40s when you're in certain scenarios, but don't believe that. Very cool though. Yeah, generally it's in the 40s though still, which is just not really much of a change overall, which is kind of annoying. Okay, we're going to high now, the next tier up. We're a little bit more, yeah, we're in the 30s a lot more now. Oh, down to the 20s. Okay. And back to the 40s. Interesting. GPU's using at 60% now. So a little bit more of the GPU, but, you know, we could really be getting a lot more frames if they really optimize this a little bit more, but what are you going to do? So yeah, get in the 40s, generally the 30s. Nah, you're still in the 40s, but you have more spikes down in the 30s and low 30s, so keep that in mind. And in more crowded areas and more city maps, you're going to have a lot more trouble. Yeah, see the 30s right there. We're using less RAM. We're using 100 megabytes less RAM than before, this is really confusing me. Now we're going to go to the very highest. I forgot to turn on sharpening, but we'll see what happens here. GPU is being used at 60%. Yeah, 60%-ish to 50s. Same amount of VRAM being used. The RAM being used about the same still. Kind of annoying, but whatever. CPUs being used at 60s. Running at currently 46 megahertz to a max clock of 4800. Running at 80 degrees Celsius, and the GPU is running at 75 degrees Celsius. Very nice. But we're in the 40s still. To the high 30s. It's just the game, it runs great. Not great, sorry, that's the worst word for it. It runs fine, except when there's stutters, and the stutters make it way worse than if there was like, if it was lower FPS but no stutters, that would probably be a better experience than what I'm experiencing now. That's just a warning though. Now we're gonna go on to space. This game is stunning as ever. Look at the see the shadow? Oh wow, when I was opening up the door, it's like slow. It's like jittery, that's the word for it. Anyways, it looks great. So, we're in an asteroid field right now, which I think would be a more demanding area than an average area, but I might just be wrong. But in space, definitely seems like it. Anyways, so if I was being smart about this, so we're actually using a lot more memory than we were using inside. We're almost reaching my 8 gigs of memory limit, which is very good. I love that it's using more of the GPU. But the GPU is still only being used at 60%. So that's very weird. But this is at very high, so you can expect that kind of performance, I guess. So we're now reaching our 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which is very cool. So in space, you're going to generally get better FPS, but more VRAM is going to be used. So if you're trying to get away with a 6 gig card, you can. Just maybe not at the highest settings with well, actually, if you're using the ultimate settings or the very high settings, you could probably get in the 40s, maybe high 30s in this kind of area, but the VRAM will limitate you. The high preset now. Wow, this game is really just not optimized in the slightest. So you'll get this, so the RAM is also being used higher. So yeah, 24 gigs is probably what you want if you want to play highest settings. Because I did play this with 16 gigs, but I actually think you're going to be limited to like 30 FPS. So, I mean, but if you're willing to play that, you know, go do you. But you can get around 60 FPS with a 3060 Ti with this, to the low 50s, and you know, going down to the 40s occasionally. Obviously, you shouldn't expect a stable frame rate in any scenario in this game. Not gonna happen. we're just gonna go to the lowest because medium had no change. So, and since some of the stuff will already be the lowest, might as well. So, let's see if I can get this down to 40 FPS. Oh. Ooh. Really cutting it close there. Anyways, yeah, I got down to 40, the high 40s. Oh. Yeah, done. So, anyways, trying to be a little fancy with that. So, obviously, you don't want to hit your ship very hard, but we are getting mid 40s. But the thing is, in a fight, that's maybe the best settings if you want to have, the game look decent still. So, I guess all you guys need to know is it doesn't matter what settings you put it at, this is going to run absolutely horrible. And you're not going to get any change in noticeable change in FPS. Wow, that was really could have summed it up fast, couldn't I? I gotta try to fix the ship, but if you guys got anything good out of this, or you learned anything, learn two things. This is all I'm just gonna say before I go: is make sure you have enough RAM, because you're gonna need it. Considering I'm using 2100-ish currently. Also, make sure you have a decent graphics card, but also a CPU that can actually, push the game so it can actually use some of the graphics card. I'm only using 50% of it, so, but alt memory is being used, but the actual power of the graphics card, only half of it's being used. I can probably get 80 frames to maybe a little higher if they actually optimize this, but that's not gonna happen. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Cutting Eye out. If you subscribe, thank you very much. Bye bye bye. I'm wasting your time. Go watch something you want to watch. Check out my Cyberpunk video. Bye.